Living Christian with JGar.
Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm excited today to talk to you more about Jesus and how Jesus saved me. I shared my testimony 2 weeks ago, and I feel the need to elaborate on some details that were shared in that video. It's important to understand where evil temptations drive from, how you can fall into those temptations, how you can get stuck there, who you can talk to for help, and how Jesus can pull you out of there and put you on a path to follow Christ. It's also important to understand that you are not free when you avoid Christ. You are actually enslaved when you fall into these temptations. You are free when you choose to follow Christ and serve the Lord. A major thing Jesus saved me from, as I said in my testimony, was lust. And it's important to keep discussing this because sex addiction is a serious problem in our nation and around the world. It's much bigger than we all want to believe. And it's also a tough topic to discuss. Many people are afraid to address this. I have discussed this in my NoFap series, and it's time to talk a little bit more about this history so we can understand why these temptations are so different, but how it is possible to free ourselves from these temptations with the power of Jesus. When I was little, growing up, I had everything kids wanted. I had TV, we went to the movies, we had a lot of movies at home, we had video games, I had plenty of CDs, I had sports, I had toys, I had everything children wanted. There were times when I didn't get the toy I wanted, or when I wanted to see a certain movie in the theater and we didn't go. That happens to everybody. It's a part of life. You might ask me, come on, you had everything, what do you have to complain about? Well, it is possible to have everything you want and still have it hard. In a past video I talked about abuse. That when you get abused just once, it can mess up your mind and mess up your heart. When you get abused over and over and over again, that can truly distort your mindset in many ways. In all the wrong ways, really. Bad teachers, bad bullies, bad doctors, and no good churches to teach you how God heals, how to seek God for help and healing. We only went to church a couple times per year, and every time we went I was just bored. I didn't gain a thing. I was told about Jesus and the great things He did for us, at least some of the great things He did for us, and His main sacrifice at the end. I never understood the reasons behind that, and I still never understood how to connect God to your life, and how to let Jesus work within you. And when you're not learning that at a young age, that opens the doors for a lot of evil temptations. When I was little, still in the single digits, there was a night when I was exposed to a dirty image. It was disgusting to me back then. Being at that young age and not having any understanding whatsoever for what that was, I didn't turn away. When I got older, I eventually learned what that dirty image was, and I hit puberty as the internet was evolving. PMO TV channels expanded to websites, spam emails, and onward. I remember seeing simple model pictures, and then stopping for a while and getting distorted feelings when seeing girls in school, girls that were the same age as me at the time, and girls older than me. I had crushes on several girls from middle school through high school. Not one of them dated me, but looking back, I have to ask, did I really have a crush on any of them? What also didn't help at all was during middle school I was taking a prescription drug that should really not be taken by anyone. It is a very dangerous drug and it caused a lot of bad effects inside me, but I was told that I needed the drug. I quit on my own decision eventually. And when you quit that drug, it can still have effects on you during your recovery time. I might talk more about that drug in a later video. I'm considering it. Looking back, I also realized girls don't like being stared at. Some simply get used to it. From 8th grade through high school, some girls were disgusted by me, some girls were just mean, and most girls enjoyed interacting with me, even saying I was a kind, complimenting, eccentric friend. As for boys, most said the same about me, except for the bullies, but the bullies quieted down when they saw me in a football uniform. That's the other thing about my growing up years. Sports. I was heavily into sports and fitness growing up. Basketball at first and later football. In high school, when I was on the sports teams, Everybody was open about their sexual sin habits. Of course, nobody called it sexual sin. Everybody was open about PMO. So soon enough, I opened up about that too, and I shocked everybody. You might remember, if you've been following me this long, in my NoFap 1 year video, I said that as a teenager I used to think I had to quit these self-pleasure habits, only to find articles saying not to quit, that this was a perfectly healthy habit. Obviously I was looking at the wrong sources for help, when I should have been seeking God, but there were no good churches to teach us that. I also remember in high school, when I was on the football team, there was one teammate who was a friend of mine, and by the time we were in 12th grade on the team together, he and I had a good friendship. We set apart our past grievances and were cool with each other. But before then, he used to say I was creepy. "You're so creepy. Why are you so creepy?" Maybe I was, and since then I have to admit I don't like being called creepy, but I see how my past abuse, past prescription drug problem, lack of understanding, and lack of Jesus led to me eventually finding comfort in self-abuse, and how that affected me in school. After high school, I went to college and got a great education with a degree in film and filmmaking. I've always been into filmmaking and storytelling. And when watching movies, year-round, old and new, I eventually saw some mainstream movies that had exploitative content, but were disguised as entertainment or cinematic art. And that can also be a gateway to more sexual sins. Because when you watch these certain mainstream movies and shows and games that have this exploitative content, it can send some triggers to you. You eventually find yourself watching this over and over again, and then you want more, and eventually it becomes a gateway to PMO websites. Also in college, there were house parties filled with sexual immorality. So this also distorted my mindset, made me think this was how adults have fun. Also in college, I did have one relationship. And my relationship with that woman wasn't brought together in all the right ways. I realized sex brought us together, not love. Years after that relationship and after graduation, we were communicating. And I was discussing with her a reunion. And then there were problems in the way that kept preventing that from happening. Soon enough, my parents introduced me to a good local church. And I got to learn how to connect God to your life. What Jesus' sacrifices really meant for us. And that was really helpful, but I still had a lot of temptations to get rid of. Church eventually helped me realize that sexual sin included PMO. That PMO was this big sexual sin that Jesus didn't want for me. When I stopped, I started learning NoFap. That sexual energy is your most powerful energy. When men waste away their sexual energy, they lose their masculinity. Wow! Had I known that as a teenager, I would have tried a lot harder to avoid those evil temptations. I would have spoken differently with women. I would have looked at sports and fitness differently. I would have looked at my school studies differently. I would have tried a lot harder to seek God for help and let God lead the way for me. Church small groups helped me let go of a lot of things, but there was one thing I was still holding on to. That old relationship. Even with those sexual sins in that relationship, I still felt that God brought us together for a reason back then, and that God would bring us back together again in the future for different reasons. I felt that our first time together, we were simply confused, and that God was using our separation time to get better knowledge of God, to learn to let God take control, and that God would soon rekindle us at the right time with His guidance. And that this time around, we would serve God rightfully first and get the relationship right. Other people were saying let her go and move on, but that's the easy thing to say. If you know what I went through with her, you would know that I couldn't just let her go. When I told the church small group about that old relationship, the couple in charge took a different approach. They encouraged me to keep talking with her. They encouraged me to keep praying about it. They encouraged me to keep updating them on how my plans with her were going. And it took a lot of time of them speaking to me about this. But I started to get some questions about that relationship. Did God originally want us together and take that away for too much sinning? Have I started seeking God too late? Have I not repented enough? I know God protects you from the enemies who try to take you off of your path to follow Christ. But was God protecting me from her all this time? I eventually heard from her through an email. We had a few back and forth email messages out of that. She kept her messages simple. The things I wanted to hear from her were not being said. And with help from the couple in charge of the small group, I was able to understand God's signs a lot better. This email conversation was a sign from God. God was showing me what God wanted me to hear, not what I wanted myself to hear. And this is what helped me understand that she had gone too far away from God. This is what helped me set her in the past to fully serve God. I still get sad knowing it took me this long to understand. As stubborn as I was, I still gained the help I needed. I still get sad understanding now that God didn't call me to save her, that it was time to set her in the past. It's important to accept reality. Don't create your own truths. It's hard, but you have to accept the real truth, rather than create false ideas. Don't create false ideas about your future spouse. Learn to accept the truth and trust in God on love. God has helped me get rid of those past sexual sins. I remind myself of God's love in order to deal with stress, sad times, and even avoid triggers and urges. I consistently pray and read the Bible to get closer to God. When I see other couples happy together, I say, good for them. I now pray that my future spouse, whoever she is, wherever she is, that she is safe. I pray that it is not too late. I pray that God will still bring us together at the right time. I pray that my story can be shared with more people. I pray that anyone younger than me who's watching can hear my story and know not to make the same mistakes I made. God has blessings for you. But God isn't preparing the blessing for you. He's preparing you for the blessing. And that's what I keep in mind. That God is preparing me for the blessings in my future. And God always succeeds. What did you think of my story? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Like and share if you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't already, subscribe for more videos. Hit the bell if you want notifications. I'm creating for you. Have a great week and a great life, and always love yourself for who you are. Godspeed.